Research and recording of Canadian creepies happens on the shared land and traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. A key treaty governing this territory is the Dish with One Spoon Agreement. This treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee people binds them to share and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We all share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, meaning we must take care of the land and the creatures we share in it. Is it really loud for you? Yeah. How do we turn it down?
Okay, there's two knobs on the right side of the little box guy.
Yeah.
See where the cable's going on underneath?
Uh-huh.
One on the left is valid, one on the right is out.
Hey, creepies! Welcome back to Canadian Creepies Podcast. I'm Allery.
And I'm Valerie.
If you caught episode 10, Witch Trials Part 1, you already know we started unraveling the eerie and often overlooked history of witch trials in Canada. We explored early witchcraft beliefs, some of the accused, and how the law treated those suspected of dabbling in the occult. But don't worry if you missed it, there's still plenty of dark history to dig into.
That's right. In Part 2, we're taking things even further. We're diving into the religious and folkloric influences behind Canadian witch hunts.
We're also looking at how laws against witchcraft lingered well into the 19th and 20th centuries.
So grab your cauldron or, your coffee, because it's time for Part 2 of Witch Trials in Canada.
Let's get into it.
Before we do get into it, hey.
I don't know. I don't hear, I don't really hear anything.
How's that?
Wait, keep going. Okay. That's better. That's
okay.
How it normally sounds.
There you go.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. How are you?
Great. How are you? Right. Much better.
Good. So let's get into it. I was gonna do some political talking, but I'll save that for next episode.
It'll probably tie in with the tea of next epi more.
Yeah.
Richard's here, Daisy's here.
Richard and Daisy are here, and we're happy to be
probably
here.
just hear Richard in the background there. Meow.
Yeah. Oh. Daisy.
Daisy's tail's wagging. She just wants to be friends so bad with him.
Should we get into it?
Let's get right into it. No, let's talk about Richard and Daisy more.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Let's get into
it. So witch hunts in Canada were far less widespread and violent than in Europe or even parts of colonial America. But there were still instances of accusations, legal repercussions, and societal fears surrounding witchcraft.
True.
So we're going to start with early French colonial accusations.
All right, that sounds cool.
It's pretty cool. I think it's very fascinating. So we didn't have anything like Salem, and so I'm just going to get into it.
I already feel privileged again. I'm white, so I know I'm privileged, but just knowing that there was accusations made against these women,
yeah,
and I don't have to. I mean. Watch them bring it back, because it seems like we're taking steps backwards, not forwards.
The
here.
States brings back witch trials.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised. Don't even get me started on that. We'll wait till next
episode. Okay, so early French colonial accusations.
Okay.
So during the 17th and 18th centuries, New France, which is now Quebec, and parts of eastern Canada, saw scattered accusations of witchcraft. These cases were often influenced by European superstitions, particularly from France, where witch trials had been common. However, unlike in places like Salem, most accusations did not result in executions. So we had a lot of accusations, not a lot of follow through.
Okay.
Which is okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
One of the most, you're like, I don't even know what to say. One of the most notable cases was that of Marie Josette Corriveau. Have you ever heard of her?
No, I thought you were going to say Antoinette.
Oh.
Yes, no, I haven't heard of her.
But she is also known as La Corriveau.
I like it.
It's beautiful. While she was not officially accused of witchcraft, legends about her took on a supernatural twist after her execution in 1763 for murdering her husband, which, of course, the men were just butthurt. Are you laughing at Richard beside me?
Yeah, he was very much... this is where my ADHD comes in. I was so distracted by him giving me like the most blank stare. It was like he was listening to you, but it also looks like he rules over this.
He does.
Minion. Yeah, I was going to say.
He does rule this house.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, men's egos, tiny. Gotcha.
Gotcha, yeah. Folklore later painted Marie as a witch whose spirit haunted Quebec.
Okay.
Marie Josette Corriveau was born in 1733 and lived to 1763, so she was 30 years old when she dies.
Dang.
And she is one of Quebec's most infamous historical figures. Remembered as both a convicted murderer and a legendary figure in Canadian folklore, her story is a mix of fact and myth, blending a real criminal case with supernatural elements that have persisted for centuries.
Wow.
So here's like the story of Marie Josette.
Okay.
Marie Josette Corriveau was born in Saint-Vallier, New France, now Quebec, in 1733. She was married twice, first to Charles Boucher, with whom she had children, and after his death in 1760, she quickly remarried to a man named Louis Etienne Dodier. Her second marriage was reportedly troubled, and Dodier was known to be abusive. In early 1763, he was found dead in a stable under suspicious circumstances, which, like, he was being abusive. Eventually, people gonna snap.
Yeah.
Initially, his death was believed to be the result of an accident involving horses, but rumors spread that he had been murdered.
Okay.
Now we'll move on to the trial and execution. So under British rule at the time, Marie was arrested and put on trial by a British military tribunal. Now this whole thing seems to be put on by men and was probably quite biased.
Ugh.
She was initially convicted of being an accomplice to murder with her father, Joseph Corriveau, who was sentenced to death for allegedly killing her husband.
Allegedly, okay.
Right? It seems like when men died under mysterious circumstances, people blamed the wife and then also the wife's father. The same thing happened with Evelyn Dick.
Yeah.
Mrs. Evelyn Dick. However, under further investigation, Marie Josette later confessed to the crime herself, claiming she had struck her husband in the head with an axe while he slept.
Damn.
Her father's sentence was commuted, but Marie Josette was sentenced to death by hanging, which was a very extreme punishment at the time, particularly for a woman.
That is extreme.
That's very extreme.
Yeah.
After her execution, her body was placed in an iron gibbet, which is like a metal cage used for public displays.
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
killed her, threw her in a metal cage, and left to hang at Point Levy, now Levy, Quebec, as a warning to others.
Kate, that reminds me of the movie Willow.
Yeah.
With Mad Mardigan. Did you see that movie?
No, but it also, yes, I have seen that movie. But
remember
also,
when Mad Mardigan's in that cage? And I think they just leave him there.
I don't know the movie well enough.
I'll show you a clip of it and you tell me if that thing is this thing that you're talking about.
Okay, but also I think of like in Hocus Pocus, when the guys...
Yes, that thing.
That's what I think of.
Yeah.
So after she was dead.
the bullies?
Yeah. Come on, look, I'm gonna puke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So here is the legend of La Corriveau. Yeah. It's not Ernie.
Yeah.
It's ice.
Yeah.
And the other guy points at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul! Who are you? Max. I just moved here.
From where?
Los Angeles. LA?
Oh, dude. Tubular. I'm Jay. This is Ernie.
How many times I gotta tell you? My name ain't Ernie no more. It's Ice. Ice.
This is Ice. So, let's have a butt.
No thanks, I don't smoke.
They're very health conscious in Los Angeles. You got any cash? Hollywood?
No.
Gee, we don't get any smokes from you. We don't get any cash. What am I supposed to do with my afternoon?
Maybe you could learn to breathe through your nose.
Whoa. Check out the new cross trainers. Cool. Let me try them on.
So here's the legend of La Corriveau. So she killed her husband, they executed her, put her body for everybody to see as a lesson and a warning. The horrific nature of her execution gave rise to folklore and ghost stories, transforming her into a supernatural figure in Quebecois legend.
Can we have a fire one night in the summer and like retell these stories?
Yes. Or even just like
witchcraft.
urban legends.
Yeah.
We should do witchcraft.
Maybe
spells8.com. Spells8.com is, remember I was
I'm
saying
totally down for a starlit night with a fire roaring.
Yeah, we could do some moon magic.
Yeah, and we can like have Yellow Jackets playing in the background.
Yeah. Kyle and I have been watching that. 10 out of 10 show.
10 out of 10.
Really
Are you on
love
first
it.
season?
First season.
Yeah.
Don't spoil. Don't spoil it.
There's nothing really to spoil. It's other than just keep her going. I'm keeping her going too.
Stoked. What season are you on?
Whatever the latest episode. Like,
Oh,
wait.
you're caught up.
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Listeners, let us know if you love Yellow Jackets. It's on Crave, which is a Canadian streaming service. Support Canadian, yo.
I do think as a not writer, but if I was a writer, I think I could like rewrite parts of it to be better. That's me being cocky, but also me being like a watcher and like listener and being like, I think I would have liked it more. That's me being
I
selfish.
feel like I
was
said
like,
something similar to Kyle the other day when we were watching it. I was like, I don't know if I like this certain. It's just like certain character aspects. Like it's like I don't agree with some of the choices the writers made about like some of the characters
or even their backstories.
Or
like,
I'm like, this doesn't seem.
I agree. So we're probably having the same thoughts. It's still a great show. Just some of
really
it, I'm
great
like,
show. And it's like I love that it's like an all-woman cast, pretty much. You know.
Great cast.
Great
and
cast.
I think that the young versions match the older versions very well physically.
Yeah, I agree.
No, and like Misty.
Yeah.
I love her. She's one of my faves.
Christina Ricci's great.
Oh, she's so great.
So great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back to it.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the horrific nature, okay, so we know this. So it was said that La Corriveau's ghost haunted the area where her body was displayed, appearing as a shadowy figure or a floating skeleton in chains.
Right.
Some stories claimed she killed multiple husbands rather than just one, portraying her as a kind of black widow who used poison or dark magic. Others suggested that she had sold her soul to the devil and that her cage would rattle at night long after her body was removed. Her gibbet became a symbol of fear and mystery, with many believing it had cursed properties.
Gibbet.
So here is what is Full House, Kimmy Gibbler.
Gibbler. I was just going to say, I'm like, what is that? Why does that sound so familiar?
Here's some of the modern interest and legacy. She remains a fascinating figure in Quebec history and folklore, and her story has been adapted into literature, plays, and films, and her name is still associated with witchcraft, crime, and the supernatural.
Okay.
In 1849, her cage was rediscovered in a Quebec City church crypt, reigniting public fascination, and it is now housed in the Musée de la Civilisation in Quebec City. Listeners, let us know if you've been there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's because what? The Museum of Civilization in Quebec City?
I'm annoyed because I went to Montreal.
You did? I've never been.
Neen and Steph and I went for like... We went for like a week, and there was a massive snowstorm coming in, and we were like, wow, do we cancel our trip? And they were like, no, let's just do it, get there, and we'll deal with it there. We got everywhere from underground. Like from our hotel, there was like this hallway, and they were like, if you don't want to go outside, just follow this hallway. And we followed this hallway in our hotel, and it went down, down, down. And then we were in this like underground hallway with stores. It was like a subway underground. And we got through the whole city. We like came up at one point. We were like, should we come up for air? Like, I feel like we should go up for air. We've been out down here for like 2 hours. Went up for air, came out in like the middle of the city, like in a mall. came up to like in a mall, and then the mall was like 3 stories. It was bizarre. I was like, this is so cool.
I want to go there.
Yeah.
I really want to go. Listeners,
really
well, we have
cool.
a few listeners in Quebec and Montreal. I'd love
I probably
to know
went a few. This was like years
more
ago.
about
I
that.
probably went a few places that were cool.
Also, I want to give a quick shout out. I almost forgot. A very quick shout out to our listener, Blair. Do you remember Blair from high school?
Blair.
Yeah,
Is that who it is?
I think so.
I don't know.
I'll show you a picture. I mean, I'm going to have to blur out
name?
that last
I just
name.
said that name because that's the name that popped in my head, but I don't even know who. Am I thinking? Yeah, show me a picture and then.
She dated...
Yeah, Blair.
Yeah.
She went to I think. Or she... Yeah, Blair. I think she... I don't know if she still works at Kilt.
Babe,
Shouldn't
does
say
Blair
that.
still work at Kilt?
No.
No.
That was the last time I saw her. She was like waitressing there. Great girl.
But she sent us a message and she
Really?
said, loving your podcast, girlies. I'm listening to the Anthill Kids one right now. So shout out, Blair. Thank you
yeah.
so much for sending us a message. That means I told her, like,
Yeah, she's a
well, I
doll.
said, so glad you're liking it. But like, it truly, when you guys send us messages and let us know that you're listening, it really, because right now when I see that people are listening, it's just numbers. I don't really,
Well, you don't know if they're liking it or if they're not
yeah,
liking it.
I'm
that
not
we
really getting
fucking
much.
care.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, we do care.
Yeah.
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 That's
So
just
it's
me being
really
you.
nice. Send us a message. We want to
We
hear from
only
you.
don't care if you don't like us.
Honestly, like, I don't care for your criticism. Like, I'm not really interested unless it's truly constructive. Like, if you're like, hey, give this a try, then yeah, for sure I'm interested to hearing that. If
I'm
you
like,
just
I'm
don't like
petty
my
enough that if I
personality,
don't-
get
yeah.
out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll fight you. No, I'm just
Sorry.
kidding.
Yeah, Allie will fight you.
I'm just kidding. Kind of. Not really. Anyhow.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to Blair. Blair's great. And
Shout out, Blair.
yeah, she's a doll.
Love. I probably somewhere in my photography portfolio still have pictures of Blair because we
It was
took
in
photography
Port that
together.
I saw her last.
Yeah, I think I saw her
swear
in
I
Port
did-
last
yeah.
too. But she's lovely.
Yeah.
Shout out. Love, love, love. Okay, so back to La Corriveau. She is referenced in literature by writers such as Philippe Aubert de Gaspé and Honor Beauregard. To this day, ghost stories about La Corriveau persist, making her one of Canada's most enduring paranormal legends.
Nice.
Right? So you're
Nice.
welcome. Now you guys know. Was she a murderer or a victim? Some historians believe that Marie Josette was unfairly demonized, possibly coerced into confessing, or given an excessively harsh punishment due to British rule and social biases against women.
Could she be both?
Could be a combination of both. Others argue that while she did commit the crime, the legends surrounding her have exaggerated the truth. Regardless, La Corriveau remains one of the most chilling and captivating figures in Canadian history.
Cool. So cool.
You're welcome. Do you want me to pull something up so you can read some too?
No, it doesn't matter. Whatever you like. You're really good at pronouncing the French
Oh, thank you.
pronunciation of places
Maybe when
and
we get to,
people.
like, these ones, we'll
Sure.
start. Okay. Catholicism played a strong role. Okay, so the next thing, sorry, I'm just hopping right into it. I'm not prefacing it with anything.
okay.
What am I, a rookie? The next, so we just spoke about the early French colonial accusations. Now we're going to get into the religious and folkloric influence,
Cool.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So Catholicism specifically played a strong role in shaping attitudes toward witchcraft in early Canada. The church condemned practices associated with the occult, but outright witch trials were rare. However, beliefs in supernatural powers persisted in folklore, particularly among French Canadian communities, where tales of witches, curses, and shapeshifters like the loup-garou or werewolf were common. So during the colonial period, Christianity, especially Catholicism and Protestantism, shaped public attitudes towards witchcraft,
Yeah, of course they did.
right? Like religious, generally does shape or influence. Anyway, French Catholics in New France and British Protestants in Upper and Lower Canada, later Ontario and Quebec, brought deeply ingrained European fears about the supernatural. So we did just talk about the accusations in New France. So we're going to talk about the Catholicism and witchcraft sort of in New France. So there is a little bit of overlap, but it goes together. In New France, the Catholic Church, so this would be why the accusations happened in New France, would be because of this religious influence brought over from the European settlers. So in New France, the Catholic Church held immense power over daily life, and religious authorities worked to suppress what they saw as heretical or pagan practices. While the church condemned witchcraft, it focused more on moral correction and exorcisms rather than violent witch trials. Unlike in Europe, where thousands of people were executed for witchcraft, there are no records of official witch trials leading to executions in Canada.
I feel like exorcisms are just as wild.
Right? They're just as wild. And just because it wasn't deemed a witch trial doesn't mean it wasn't. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
However, the belief in witches, demons, and supernatural forces were common among early French settlers. Priests often blamed misfortunes such as crop failures, illnesses, or bad weather on God's will rather than demonic intervention. At the same time, they denounced practices like folk healing, fortune-telling, and certain rituals that blended Catholicism with older European traditions. Some women, accused of having supernatural abilities, were shunned or feared, but they were more likely to be ostracized than put on trial. So we were like, as usual, we're like the less intense version of the States.
Right.
Right. One of the most famous supernatural figures in French Canadian folklore is Marie Josette Corriveau, who we just talked about. As we know, she was executed in 1763 for murdering her husband. And while she was not officially accused of witchcraft, her legend took on supernatural overtones with stories of ghosts haunting the countryside and her remains being placed in an iron gibbet as a warning. Over time, she became a mythological witch-like figure in Quebecois culture. Which is cool to see, like, the influence.
It is cool.
You know? But also, I don't really know the difference between Catholicism and Protestantism.
Me neither.
Maybe it'll tell us. Protestant settlers. So now we're going to talk about Protestantism and witchcraft in English Canada. So that was Catholicism in New France, Canada. Now we're talking about Protestantism and witchcraft in English Canada.
Right.
Protestant settlers in Upper Canada, which is now Ontario, Nova Scotia, and other English-speaking regions brought their own fears of witchcraft, largely shaped by the same Puritan influences that led to the Salem witch trials in 1692.
Right.
But these colonizers came over, and it's like they wanted something different than what the United States was. However, by the time large numbers of British settlers arrived in Canada in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, witch hunts had already declined in England. That being said, certain Protestant groups, particularly Methodists and Baptists, believed in spiritual warfare and the battle between good and evil. Some saw demonic possession, curses, and ungodly behaviors as signs of supernatural influence.
Dang.
Right? Rural communities were often superstitious, and people accused of practicing witchcraft, especially women who acted outside social norms, could be socially punished through exclusion or gossip. And you know that when I was researching this, I was like, okay, so let's talk about gossip. Let's talk about the root of gossip. Yeah, let's get the tea on gossip. So from my perspective,
yes,
not just my perspective, but the historical punishment of gossip by the government and institutions can be understood as a mechanism of social control, particularly one that disproportionately targeted women, marginalized groups, and the working class.
Right.
Gossip, often dismissed as frivolous, has actually been a powerful tool of resistance, solidarity, and knowledge sharing, which made it threatening to those in power. Like, gossiping saves lives.
Yes.
So we're going to switch off some reading. Allie's going to do just like...
Am I doing number 1?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk about get into it a little bit. on the controlling women's voices and power aspect. So historically, women's speech has been policed more than men's, especially when it challenges authority. In patriarchal societies, women were often excluded from formal positions of power.
Yeah.
Government, law, clergy. I was literally trying to explain this to Jake the other night.
There you go.
For fuck's sake.
Here it is.
So informal networks of communication like gossip became a way to share information, warn against injustice, and build solidarity. Fucking right.
Fucking right. Gossip is queen.
Yeah. Men suck. Spread the word.
Spread the word.
In
case they don't know.
Yeah, in case they don't know, yeah. In medieval and early modern Europe, women accused of gossiping were punished with devices like scold's bridle. Bridle.
Sorry.
What am I
like
thinking?
A bridle, like a horse.
No, am I thinking brittle as in like
a brittle bone, like peanut brittle?
I was thinking peanut brittle. Fucking delicious. Bridle. Like the scold's bridle, a metal mask that prevented speech. Like, my God, you really had to use that?
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
They did.
Okay.
Because they didn't want us talking about all the evil things the men were doing. I know. Yeah. I'm dead. They killed me. I'm lobotomized.
They're literally like what's it called? They're like... The fuck is a buddy that melts iron and he's
like the man in the iron man, a smelter, like a welder.
It's a trade. Welder, yeah. That thing's being welded to my
like
fucking
glass blower.
Face and skin, yeah. Okay. Anyways. Okay, so laws against scandal mongering often disproportionately punish women who spread information about domestic abuse, infidelity, or corrupt officials.
So things that would keep us safe.
Right? Or expose those that are like...
Yeah.
You know... predators. In religious communities, gossip was labeled as sinful, reinforcing the idea that obedient, good, in quotations, good women should be silent while reinforcing male authority. This pisses me off so much.
Annoying,
it's such a good thing that I wasn't born in this. I would have been dead so
quick. We would
quick.
have been dead. We're dead. Yeah. Gossip as well. So we're going to talk about how without gossip, it would suppress social resistance.
Right.
Gossip has historically been a means of challenging unjust power structures. So gossip, queens, gossip, keep each other safe. Mm-hmm. Governments have often criminalized or demonized gossip because it could expose corruption, disrupt social hierarchies, or unite oppressed groups. Let's unite and let's disrupt those social hierarchies. You're closer to being homeless than you are a billionaire, and that's a promise and a statistic.
Yeah, tons of people are being canceled because of it, so let's keep it up.
Enslaved and colonized peoples used oral storytelling and coded gossip to resist oppression. Colonial powers tried to suppress these practices to maintain control. In workplaces, gossip has historically been a way for workers to organize, discuss unfair wages, or expose exploitation. Many employers enforce strict rules against idle talk to prevent labor organizing.
Nice.
In authoritarian regimes, spreading rumors has been punishable by imprisonment because gossip is a way to counter propaganda and to share hidden truths.
Love it.
Whoa.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, wee, Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about racist, classist, and colonialist uses of anti-gossip policies, which are punishments for gossip Punishments for gossip have not just been about gender. They've also been tied to race, class, and colonialism.
Yeah.
Say that 5 times fast. Indigenous oral traditions were often dismissed as gossip by colonizers who sought to erase indigenous knowledge systems. Missionaries and officials discouraged indigenous storytelling, fearing that it could challenge colonial rule. Well, doesn't that just sound like Christopher Columbus type shit?
Yeah, fucking right.
Poor and working class communities, where word of mouth was essential for survival, were often policed more harshly for gossip than elite classes who engaged in their own, often institutionalized, versions of it. Black women, immigrant women, and other marginalized groups have historically been demonized as gossips to discredit their testimonies, whether they were speaking about sexual violence, workplace abuse, or community issues. Some straight bullshit right there.
Straight bullshit. Now we're going to talk about gossip as a resistance. Far from being just idle talk, gossip has been a tool of survival, resistance, and activism. The Me Too movement was fueled by informal networks of women warning each other about sexual predators before mainstream institutions took them seriously.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Huge movement.
And in LGBTQIA plus history, underground networks of gossip helped people find safe spaces where being openly queer was criminalized. And women in domestic violence shelters often rely on word of mouth to warn each other about abusers, unsafe employers, or corrupt landlords, systems that fail them otherwise.
Hell yeah. Wow. Okay, so next we'll go into the modern echo: social media, censorship, and power. Today, the punishment of gossip has taken new forms, whether through defamation lawsuits, corporate social media bans, or governments cracking down on misinformation. While some regulations are meant to prevent harm, others serve as a modern extension of silencing marginalized voices. Whistleblowers and activists are often accused of spreading rumors to discredit their revelations. Online feminist and anti-racist movements are regularly targeted by censorship, while more powerful institutions spread misinformation unchecked. Women, especially women of color, trans women, and disabled women, still face backlash for speaking about harm, often being labeled as dramatic or troublemakers, when they're actually calling out injustice.
So our final thoughts on gossip is that the punishment of gossip has never really been about stopping misinformation. It has been about controlling who gets to speak. Yeah, exactly. And who gets to be believed.
Yeah.
Throughout history, governments, religious institutions, and the elite have used anti-gossip laws and social norms to silence those who challenge oppression. Rather than dismissing gossip as meaningless, it's important to reclaim it as feminist and an anti-oppression tool. One that has historically kept people safe, exposed corruption, and built solidarity among marginalized groups.
Yep, I'll always have girls' backs. I'll always have minorities' backs.
Always.
Always. Always.
And now we're going to go into our current case segment.
Cool. Current case.
In today's segment, we delve into a distressing case from 2021 involving two Toronto teenagers who faced accusations of witchcraft leading to their abandonment in the Dominican Republic of Congo, or DRC.
This case highlights how deeply ingrained beliefs and cultural misunderstandings can have severe consequences, even in our modern world.
The teenagers, whom we'll refer to as Mary and Stephen to protect their identities, were living in Toronto under the care of their grandmother. In October 2021, following a family dispute, local authorities visited their home. Fearing potential legal repercussions for their aunt, their grandmother made a drastic decision. Just 4 days after the police visit, she sent Mary and Stephen back to Kinshasa, the capital of DRC.
Upon arrival in Kinshasa, the siblings found themselves alone and vulnerable.
Yeah, because they didn't know anybody there.
Right? That'd be scary as shit.
So scary.
Their grandmother had retained their permanent resident cards and forbade them from contacting other family members.
Oh my God.
Accusations of witchcraft are alarmingly common in the DRC. UNICEF reports that approximately 13,500 children are denounced as witches in Kinshasa each year, often leading to their abandonment and life on the streets. I've heard of stuff like this where culturally it's like say a baby is born with Down syndrome. Culturally it's like those babies are looked at as like actually being something like a serpent or a snake. So the parent will bring that child out to like the jungle, leave them there in order for the child to return to its snake like
Self? Wow.
Meanwhile, it's an actual human and the baby dies, and it's like culturally, it's just wild. It's wild. I just saw that on TikTok somewhere.
It's wild. That is wild.
Source, I don't know, but looked pretty accurate to me.
Yeah. Desperate and with I'm like back to these two now because I got nothing to say to that.
Yeah.
Desperate and with nowhere to turn, Mary and Stephen reached out to a friend in Toronto who connected them with Sam Lunga, a man in Kinshasa willing to help. Lunga provided them with temporary shelter and sought assistance from the international Congolese community to cover their basic needs and legal expenses. He emphasized that poverty, unemployment, and the influences of certain pastors perpetuate these harmful beliefs in witchcraft, leading to family separations and community distrust.
This case underscores the challenges faced by immigrant families and reconciling deeply rooted cultural beliefs with new social norms. Michael Chikwanine, a former Chikwanine?
I don't know.
I'm so sorry. Michael Chikwanine, a former child soldier from the DRC and now a United Nations fellow, points out some evangelical churches and self-proclaimed prophets exploit these beliefs for personal gain. He also highlights the need for more robust integration programs for newcomers to help them navigate and understand the legal and cultural landscapes of their new homes.
The ordeal of Mary and Stephen serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring impact of superstition and the critical importance of cultural sensitivity and support systems for immigrant communities.
It's essential to address and challenge these harmful beliefs to prevent such tragedies from reoccurring.
For those interested in learning more about this case and the broader context of witchcraft accusations, we recommend reading the detailed report by Global News.
This is why they should not... Anyway, I'll get back to this. Stay tuned as we continue to explore similar cases and discuss ways to foster understanding and change. What I was going to say is this is why they shouldn't eliminate like Black history from the curriculum.
Yeah.
Anytime, because you have to teach in order to not have history repeat itself.
Yeah.
There's nothing... put it that way. And I was like, that's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's important not to.
Yes, exactly.
You don't want shit to repeat itself.
You don't.
Right, Richard?
Richard knows what's up.
Richard just nodded his head.
Well, thanks so much for listening, listeners. This was another episode of Canadian Creepies. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Canadian Creepies. Send us an email, please. Send us some case suggestions.
Or let us know if you love us,
I want to know what you
us.
want to hear.
Yeah, and you know what? If you, even by sharing our name, helps us so much. So much. Any type of support like that is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we're just a couple of gals living in a creepy world, you know.
Richard says meow meow, and Daisy says woof, meaning they appreciate it as well.
Yeah, that's right. Don't let the bed creeps bite.
Yeah. Let's talk again at the same time. We'll see you. Have a great night. Say bye, Daisy. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Say bye. Oh my God. Thank you to Kyle McDonnell for editing and composing our theme song.